me, but I want to welcome everybody from Animal Behavior Consultants in Michigan and Dr. Jill Sackman um, to our monthly chat. And I just feel so fortunate to have you as part of this chat, being that you're a board certified veterinary behaviorist and a board certified veterinary surgeon, which really blows my mind. So you
Does most people. They can't see the connection between the 2.
well, but yeah, I
Uh,
mean, you know, you're just you've got so many really great skills, so much knowledge, and so it really is my honor and pleasure to have you here every month. So I hope people will tune in, and if you are tuning in, share it. Please do share. We would love others to tune in because we are pretty consistent with being here on the first Tuesday. Well, I don't know. We're hoping on
First
the
of the month. First
of
part
the
of the
month,
month.
beginning of the month. And the
Yeah.
beautiful thing about these is that if you can't attend live, you can watch the recording. So if you've missed some of our previous chats, we encourage you to look back in our Facebooks and check them out because we talk about all sorts of things. So today's subject, and please feel free to type in the chat box. Let us know that you're here, that you can see us. We had some problems last time. But today we're going to talk about senior dogs in homes with children. I want to talk about some of the challenges, but also some of the things we can appreciate about that because they are senior dogs and end of life. And boy, there's a lot of things. So where do we want to begin, Jill?
Wow. I when I think of senior dogs with young children, I will tell you kind of the profile I often see is a young couple who adopted a dog together, either before they were together or as kind of a first um, joint activity they did before they were married, before they were spending a lot of time together. And then the dog has to cope with the addition of a child somewhere along the line. and,
Mhm.
and the families are finding that it's one different than they anticipated because they didn't have a child in the environment when they adopted the dog originally. And a lot of times the dog has aged. So we're
Yeah.
now dealing with a pet that has, I hope we're going to talk today about some of the things, the joys and trials and
Yes.
tribulations and
Yeah.
frustrations
Yes.
of having an older pet in the house. So I think the setup or the situation is very frequent. That a baby enters the home with an older pet that has been with the couple for a while, um, and the scenario has changed. So one of the first things I look for is a change in behavior.
Mm.
A lot of times people will say, my dog has never done this before. Why suddenly is he or she irritable about the environment?
Right.
And that to me is a something in my head as a behaviorist that I start looking for other medical, orthopedic, neurologic causes for that
Exactly.
irritability as well. So I don't know. I just when we think about older dogs and little ones, that's kind of my
Mhm.
classic scenario is this pet who is now adjusting to changes in life with
Yes.
their two primary people.
I agree with you 100%. And what I see most often is they've had this dog. This dog has been lovely, of course, has been, maybe when it was a puppy, they used the crate or they used the gates or they did that
Mhm.
management then. But because the dog is, moved into their normal ways and is good in the house, they no longer have any management in place. And so now when they have a baby, they they either
Mhm.
realize before or sometimes they realize too late that they're going to need management. They're going to need a crate. They're going to need to make use of play yards, of gates, of all these different things. And that can be really, really hard on a senior dog who has been used to being by its trusted people, who's used to
Mhm.
being there. And so now all of a sudden the games have changed and they're not allowed in every space of the house. And it's so stressful, and that's when I
It's
send them
very
to
stressful. It's
you.
yeah, it's not just the addition of, an infant to the home, a child to the home, it's suddenly there's gates, crates, and you know what? You bring up a really important point. A lot of times, well, I always ask, does your dog tolerate being behind a gate or in a crate or some level of safety confinement? And I hear, yeah, well, we got rid of that because we didn't need it anymore. So they're not sure.
Yeah.
And that's where I like to start with is can your dog tolerate being by themselves? And so kind of rethinking and reintroducing these things. I think they're fabulous tools to have throughout the life of your pet. Whether you're,
I
think
do
if
too.
you're traveling, if you're in a
Absolutely.
hotel room, if you're visiting family or friends, to be able to put your dog in a crate.
Or
1,
without the age.
safety. Yeah, 2 is just like decompression, relaxation time for them. But,
Yes.
I agree with you. A lot of these tools have been put aside because they don't feel like they need them, and they often probably don't for their lifestyle.
Well, and many people think, it's not kind, and I would say
Mhm.
actually it is kind, especially during the pandemic. And hi, Vic, I see your question and comment there. Um, Many people, what we're finding is that a lot of dogs are not getting enough sleep, are not getting enough
Yeah.
downtime. There need to be, like, I'm looking at my shepherd here, who my morning is a little off, and he's like, okay, so I guess we are really getting up, right? um, he really
And
did his
that
morning thing at like,
yeah.
we're can we go back in that room? Can we? Okay, we're not. We're going in the office now. And,
Yeah.
our dogs really do follow us, and those of them that tend to be more diligent, hyper diligent than others are not getting enough rest. And so that's a really important thing. And so a crate or a safe space, or I call them success stations, is critical, I think, in the lives of our dogs so that they can be there where it is
Mhm.
predictable, where they've learned that good things happen there, no one's going to bother them there. Maybe they have a box fan or a fan turned on so that's a little quieter. Something that identifies this as their safe success station. And so I think that that's really important. One of the things I can say for sure that I run into often is when a family calls and says, out of the blue, their dog just snapped at
Mhm.
their child. And often this is when a parent is doing what parents do, might have stepped out of the room for a minute. I understand that it happens. And there was a growl, possibly a bite. Um, and they don't know why. And then when we talk about it, we talk about, well, tell me a little bit about how mobility, maybe the baby's about 10 months old, you know, how has
Mhm.
that been? How has it been since baby's been crawling? Well, our dog just, gets up and moves away every time. So they're always good. They're always good. They've been fine. Sometimes the dog licks, sometimes he licks her. So I think everything's good. Um, that's commonly what I hear, Jill, until we hear otherwise, right? And that
Mhm.
otherwise tends to be
Mhm.
the dog has said, "Well, that was one time too many," or that it hurts. And what dogs start doing is saying small child equals pain sometimes.
Mhm.
That little one
Yeah.
entering the room in that awkward, unpredictable way invites pain, feels painful, or I anticipate pain. And so some dogs will then react. Is that something that you see? Tell me your.
Oh, absolutely. So a couple things to think about with senior dogs is many have aches and pains that come with aging, degenerative joint disease, hip problems, knee problems, spinal arthritis or neurologic problems
You're
that
singing my story.
becomes
You're talking about me.
yeah. Well, we all get a little achy,
Yeah.
don't we, as we
Yes,
get
we
older?
do.
So the ability of an elderly pet, and when I say elderly, that is very much just like with humans. It could start younger for some than others, particularly if we have a dog who's had ongoing orthopedic, or maybe had surgery on his knees or her
Yeah.
knees earlier in life. So that may happen at 7, 8 years of age, or it could be over 10, 12 years of age. Those dogs are less mobile,
Mhm.
they may have a difficult time getting up and getting out of the way of a child. They may slip on a slippery floor. Suddenly homes that have tile, linoleum, vinyl, wood become really slippery for senior dogs, or their ability to get up out of a dog bed if a child comes into their space can be altered. And
Mhm.
then on top of that, they hurt, they're uncomfortable. So whereas a younger dog might have chosen to get up and out of the way, an older dog is either less incentivized, they have a physically hard time, or they
Yep.
may also be painful in that process. And so, yeah, they'd start to associate, oh, little one coming toward me, I hurt, I can't get up and get away, or they can't get up and get away fast enough
Right.
because of their inability to have the appropriate traction on flooring in the home.
Yeah, and so that easily could lead to a snap as a
Mhm.
deterrent, or what I reference a lot is kids to dismiss. So when the baby, where's
Mhm.
my where's my demo? Where's my demos? All my dogs are waiting so patiently.
I saw that downstay in the back there. That's amazing. I wish my dogs had that good a downstay.
I know, right? We worked forever on that. So, if
Mhm.
the dog is just hanging out here and the baby comes close and that happens, this dog might lick, 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 lick in the hopes that baby goes, ah, and then moves away. Right. So that's what I
Mhm.
reference as kiss to dismiss, is a dog that actually, you know, doesn't really want to move for whatever reason, often because they're comfy or they're in their spot, which
Mhm.
I can't blame them, honestly. And I'm comfortable in my place. And one of my
Right.
kids is like, "Can I sit there?" No, no, I'm good right here. This is,
I
I
don't wanna move.
don't want to,
Yeah,
right?
that's a comfy spot,
Yeah,
and it may be painful or hard to get up and move.
and
Yeah.
for me too. I learned so much through my own situation with my own nerve pain. I honestly have, I'll tell a brief, quick story, but this so relates to what we were out last year with my family, and we were getting ice cream, and we had been walking around, and I have severe pain in my spine and nerve pain, and we were walking around, and we stopped. There was no place to sit. Everybody wanted ice cream. It was bright and sunny, and I'm not really the bright and sunny kind of gal. It was bright and sunny. It was hot. My back was hurting me. There was nowhere to
Mhm.
sit. Everybody wanted ice cream. Okay, get ice cream. We got ice cream. My husband was standing right next to me. He was doing nothing wrong. Okay. I had sunglasses on and I must have been glaring at him because while he was eating his ice cream, he was kind of shifting his weight a little bit, and enough that we were in such a kind of crowded space that if he shifted his weight towards me, I was really on edge.
You were trigger stacked, weren't you?
I was very sympathetic, but I was on edge that he might bump me at
Oh, okay,
any
sure.
level. Yes, yes, all the trigger stacking was there. The ice cream wasn't helping me. It was a reinforcement. It was not doing its job at all because all I could think about is he's gonna bump into me and he's gonna rock my balance because I was standing in a way that I wasn't in as I was least amount of pain. But if he nudged me or bumped into me,
Might have fallen
I
or more
it would have
pain. Yeah.
more pain.
That's a really, really great analogy to how, a
Yes,
painful or wobbly senior
yes,
dog might feel.
and
Yeah.
that ice cream, you could have given me all the ice cream. I
Was not
still
enough in that
not
circumstance.
not
Yeah.
enough because, the vulnerability and the pain, and so I literally felt like screaming at him, which I feel as a bite. I'll never forget this experience because I do think it relates exactly to what our dogs feel. And I felt like biting him. I was like, you know, back up, you know. And under my glasses, he wasn't really catching. My husband won't catch he won't catch those cues. But I really was glaring at him every time he moved in my space.
Yeah. That's a really great analogy, and
Every
that's
time.
see, and also, I'm thinking for you could see him well, but what if we had a dog, as all dogs get changes to vision, whether it's
Yep.
the lens in their eye gets really dense, or they have cataracts, or they may have clouding on their cornea from pigmentation, and what if they can't really see very
Mhm.
well either, or there may be shadows, or
Mhm.
I find, my senior dog, because he has some corneal pigmentation, if he goes outside in a dark room, he
Yep.
can't hardly
Yep.
I think it's the lens change from the glare, he can't hardly see at all, and so he is
I have
really
that problem.
wobbly and disoriented on his legs, so and then maybe hearing, you know, I think most people appreciate hearing
Yes.
loss in their older pets, so we may even surprise them, when
Mhm.
they're uncomfortable and a child toddles into their space and they're surprised. And so that child who they may have had a pretty good relationship
Yes.
with all of a sudden is
Startle.
thinking painful, startle, I don't know who it is, and they
Yeah.
react,
Very
right?
spooky. Yeah, and then it's, oh my gosh, what happened? He's never done this before, and it's like, yes, so that's where we come in and say, let's talk about this. Let's unpack all that's involved here so we can really completely understand. This isn't your dog has gone wild or bad. There's a reason why this happens, and they can't really map out those things so well. It's our job to help navigate it when it becomes difficult. I do see, and this is on the sadder side, the comment here. I don't know if you had a chance to read it, but it's something else I really think about with senior dogs, is loss. And I see what Vic is saying. You know, as far as loss and children, this is a really, really, unfortunately been through this many, many, many times with my own children and with many families. And there's a great book that I have found, Forever. I don't want to skip away from here, but I will post it again. Forever Friends, by Colleen Alice, I believe.
Hmm.
I just posted it on my Instagram. I'm going to make sure I have the right title, which has a bunch of activities that I feel are really good, and are, activities that even can help, in my mind. Forever Friend, um, an activity and book. Um, it's a children's guide and activity book for saying goodbye to a special dog. It's by Dr. Mary Gardner and Colleen Ellis. And I got mine on Amazon. I thought this was a great book with lots of different activities, lots of different things. Vic, what I find is that there can be some detachment, um, kind of preceding the loss. I often think therapy is very helpful for children that are going to be losing such an incredibly special, family member. And, as a service dog that has helped and
Service
supported,
dogs in particular, yeah.
yeah, service dog in particular. I mean, there's so much that is involved there, and I'm sure you guys have already thought of that. But I think this book that has activities to really memorialize, to really, even just to be planning, some of the things. Um, I think about really talking to children about enjoying the now with our dogs, because we really don't know, when that is, when they might pass. But I really do relate to that, and I hope that that book is helpful, because the end of life is rather challenging. I have always included my children as much or as little as they have indicated they wanted. Um, and from the beginning, and that's a personal choice. It's a personal choice. I can say, as an adult child, that I wasn't given that option growing up to be there for my dog, and I regretted it. And so I've always made it so that it's up to my children. We explain everything and we allow them to be there. For some, it is closure that they need. I found that my children find it need that closure. Really want to be there with their special beloved friend and family member. So I don't know if that's helpful, but those are just some of the thoughts. Really talking it through, knowing that the day is going to come at some point, and that's why enjoying right now. Um, what can we do now? What can we journal about all the special things? Because
Mm.
I tell you, Jill, I that is something you don't remember. You think you will never forget, but you do. You forget some of the all the little tiny, tiny things unless you journal it, unless you write it down. So when someone's comfortable, either before or after, just even now, before, what do you love about your dog? How does your dog brighten your day? What special things do you enjoy only with your dog? Getting kids to write about that before, like as an adult, to be able to get that written down before you hit that end point is a gift that they will have forever. And so it's something really all of us should do because it's so hard once we do have loss to get in that mindset set.
Oh, without a doubt. Just thinking of myself, it's so hard to think about. It's so painful immediately after the loss.
But if
You
we think
know,
about it
I
ahead of
love
time,
I
yeah,
thinking about it ahead of time, and it's
what I love.
really the joy of day to day living a lot of times with a senior pet. And what I have done, which has been
Mhm.
just for me fun, is create a memory box. So
Yeah.
I collect things afterwards, and it takes a little time before I can do that and put the things together. But you do reach a point where there are joyful memories. Um, One thing I also, it's a little off of children and dogs, but
Mhm.
Dr. Mary Gardner, who I'm assuming is probably the same author, co-author on your book, she is
Yeah.
a co-founder of Lap of Love,
Yes.
which does hospice. She does with her business
Wonderful.
partner hospice care. She has another book which is focused on journaling your senior dog's progression and signs to help decide
Mm,
quality of life issues. So,
yes.
if for folks listening, I like her where she's written for veterinarians, a geriatric care book,
Mm,
and she's written for pet owners, ways to kind of journal things and make your I listened to her talk recently and she did a great job talking about
yeah,
quality of life for geriatric pets in the home, which can include putting, yoga mats and bath mats throughout the house so we
yes.
don't have slips and falls and, so practical stuff. So I encourage folks to look up her
I
other works as well. I think she does a really nice job because it's also, we haven't really talked about, it's a lot of work. So let's talk about maybe
know the work.
parents who have young children and now have a dog who requires extra care getting outside or may have potty accidents in the house as well, and the stress. Do you have any, I'm just was thinking about
Mm.
that. Do you have any thoughts about that? Or I
Um,
mean, it's an additional
it is an additional
lot of
consideration.
work
Mm.
and stress.
And sanitary. It's a legit sanitary issue because if you are unable to manage, and for example, if you have a dog that cannot hold their bells or is having issues, and you have a toddler or twins, or you have, kids, it may it. And I say this. I've seen families struggle with this, where a family is legit they're just overwhelmed. And it is super hard when you have an adult dog who needs tremendous care, that if it was just adults in the home and you could do that 24/7, but as you have a baby or several children and a senior dog who needs help with bathroom, needs help standing, needs help feeding, needs help navigating the house. Um, you know, you do question everybody's quality of life, everybody's, I question from the sanitary side where we've got children crawling around and potential for feces on the floor. I've seen that with cats as well, especially I think with cats. Um, and it's heartbreaking for families because they're having this toddler. It's an amazing magical time, and this senior dog that their time spent with the toddler and they see their dog declining or aging and they feel really pulled, but also they also feel like I feel guilty because I don't have the time or the energy to care for this dog and the needs that it needs. And I see a lot of families struggle with this, and
Oh my
I did
gosh, yeah.
myself. I had a dog with Cushing's, and I had to, she had other issues. She started to isolate, and that is when we chose to let her go. Um, but it is a really difficult time, and I just encourage people to reach out, certainly for support. um, certainly you can reach out to us, but it is really hard, Jill. So that's what I think about it. I don't have a solution. All I can say is that I do see families really struggling with that, feeling really guilty because they don't have everything they wish they had for the dog. They just don't have the energy, time. They're already getting spread thin in what the needs are of a little one. I'm talking kids under 3, you know, um,
Mm.
2-year-olds, newborns. And I want people to know that that's okay. I don't think we need to, and I'll just share my thoughts on this. I think that we do, I love that checklist that you mentioned, by Dr. Mary Gardner.
Yeah, and Jen, I can give you the name. I think you'll have to type it in. I'd look to see if I could type it in,
Oh, okay.
but you
What is
may unless I'm missing it. The name of it is Geriatric Dog Health and Care Journal,
how do you, Jer?
and it says a toolkit for geriatric dog caregivers.
Geriatric dog.
Health and Care Journal.
Okay.
And if you Google it on Amazon, it's right there with the Forever Friend. So that's good. And she also has a book called It's Never Long Enough.
It's
So it's
never.
also a practical guide to I think a real challenge is
Yeah.
for anybody, but because of the added stress and demands of a family with young children, is deciding when is quality of life and quality of life for everyone. And there have been some really interesting, I think, insightful and a new perspective and how much stress and anxiety caring for a
Mm,
chronically ill pet brings to anyone, let alone a family that has the other stresses and demands
yes,
on them. But it is on the level of caring for a human.
it
And
totally
these
is.
studies have been done by individuals who are in the human social work and
Yes.
psychology arena. So, yeah, I don't underestimate this at all. And these are not easy decisions. And I think some of these tools offer folks insights into deciding when it is time to consider
And
quality of life and end of
talking
life
with,
decisions.
yeah, and I about this too. I mean, I guess I've always felt that talking with kids, and sharing what's happening, depending on the age, but sharing, kids know more than we think they do, and they're picking up a lot.
They sure do.
They are picking up on a lot of things. And I was amazed at how much my kids understood. I guess I also always didn't want a choice and decision to be made in an urgency. So I wanted the dog to have, or cat to have, some dignity and have it be a fun last day of celebration where we could calmly come together. And again, Lap of Love provides wonderful services in your home. I've benefited multiple times from those services, and includes children or whoever would like to be included, in a very gentle, loving way. And And so preparing, talking about, it's we all, maybe, this is part of life. And it is part of life. And it's a wonderful honor to be a part of it for our animals. At least that's the way that I try to approach it. So I hope that that helps. And I hope that those resources are helpful. But it is it it's just one of those difficult things because no, they're never here long enough.
It's never long
They're
enough.
never here long
They
enough.
live a very short life.
Yeah,
One other thing that I would like to bring up for
yeah.
awareness for our listeners is that there are, first of all, lots of things we can do as your dog ages, and that dogs go through a cognitive decline
Mm.
to varying degrees, just like humans do. And in fact, people who study these sorts of things have found that the changes that occur in the dog and the cat's brain look very similar to human Alzheimer's disease. So I think that historically we have underdiagnosed and undertreated these signs. It is a progressive problem that we cannot stop per se, but there's a lot we can do for supporting our pets in the display of the signs and the rapidity
Ooh,
of progression of these signs.
yeah, tell us more.
So, some of the things that I would suggest people can look out for, there's an algorithm called DISHA, and I like algorithms because it reminds me not to forget any
Yeah.
element in it. But DISHA stands for, first is the D is disorientation.
Mhm.
So one of the first things we see in older dogs is they seem to kind of get lost. They're stuck or
Yes.
they're, like, I don't know how to get my way out of this room. Now, some of it could be auditory or visual. Some of it can actually be confusion from
Yeah.
a cognitive point of view. The I stands for interaction. This is a change in interaction among the people that they would have relationship with. So this we talked a little bit about this,
Yes.
change in relationship maybe to a young child. And this interaction could be, I've seen some friendlier and I've seen some more irritable or aggressive behaviors.
Mhm.
We have S, which is sleep wake cycle. And this is something that can profoundly affect families or individuals, is that dogs, they will have a hard time sleeping and sleeping soundly, or they may sleep more soundly, or they are waking up. And the waking up can have a cognitive
Yeah.
orientation to it. It may also be, and I think this happens more frequently than we'd like to realize, is the dog is uncomfortable or in pain. They wake up because it hurts or they can't get a comfortable
Yeah.
spot. And so, but then this affects our families because the dog may get up and vocalize, or they may wander and vocalize. And everybody's thinking, like, you're going to wake up the baby. Oh
Right.
my God, I have only 4 hours to sleep and now I can't because
That's
and
right.
this sounds really minor, but when you are living it, this has become, I think, a decision point for many families of can they handle it or not as a sleep wake cycle.
Yes.
H is for housebreaking, house training.
Oh, yes.
So our perfectly trained dog is suddenly leaving messes around the house. And we talked a little bit about that. But this is frequently they may not be able to
Yes.
hold themselves as long. They may get to the front door and go like, I think it's somewhere around here I'm supposed to go.
Right? Yeah.
And they will leave us the mess. And it's not an intention,
Um,
obviously. This has to do with loss of learning, loss of orientation, maybe increased
Respect.
urge
Yeah.
or frequency that happens. But it can be really hard, for families to manage, particularly if they have little ones crawling on the
Yes.
floor in their busy household. And the A stands for anxiety. And so I see a lot,
Yes.
this is often what'll bring clients to me with a dog with cognitive decline is the dog has maybe always had a little noise sensitivity, but manage all of a sudden every thunderstorm, firecracker, noise in the house, the beep 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 of the smoke detector is
Every
sending the dog into a panic, and anxiety increases with age. It is in humans. If you read about this with
Yes.
folks with Alzheimer's and other sorts of cognitive dementia and decline, and
Yeah.
certainly
Right.
happens with our dogs. So, I encourage families, and those of people listening in today who work with these families to have people seek help for this, because there is a lot of things that we can do. Although we can't reverse the changes that are occurring in the brain, we can change the quality of life and delay the progression. So anything from I encourage people to seek out things such as help from a veterinary physical therapist for the dog, or exercises you can do. Anything, if your dog still can enjoy walks. Exercise is amazing. It is for humans, right? It
Yeah.
is amazing for dogs. And if they can't walk, maybe they can join your walk in a wagon or a stroller or something, so they can get out and they're getting sensory enrichment. So anything we can do to provide engagement and sensory enrichment. And yes, old dogs can learn new tricks. And I think we sometimes back away from an older dog and say, oh, he's just sleeping away. And they get really, really jazzed if we want to
Yes.
teach them a new trick or refresh an old trick with them. And that helps the progression of cognitive decline with that. So, um, just putting a pitch out here, don't resign your
Right.
dog or cat, because cats will also
Mhm.
have these signs. And when this happens really depends upon the individual dog. I've seen it as young as 8 to 9 years of age,
Yep.
and I've certainly, by the time a pet reaches 13 to 15 years of age, they almost certainly have some level of cognitive dysfunction
Oliver's feeling insecure.
going on. Uh-oh. So let me stop there. You can tell I'm passionate about it. I love senior dogs. Some
I
days,
do.
like in my house, it was a little stressful yesterday because we had 3 pee accidents, and I was like, "Ah," between clients, but I love senior dogs.
There
I
he
think they
is.
bring so much patience and joy, if you
Knowledge.
knowledge, um, and it's not just about loss. I think we can celebrate
Beauty.
the beauty of older dogs and age,
I
so
really I agree with you. I think older dogs, so to talk about that a little bit, when we do have senior dogs, and sorry, I broke that up. I tried to write it and then I hit return and then it got weird, but I put everything in there.
okay.
Um,
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you,
yeah,
but if people wanna search, if they can, Purina has a really nice checklist that you can download, and if you search by DISHA, DISHA,
mhm,
dog or cognitive decline, it'll give you a way to kinda go through the signs and kind of decide how significant the issues are, but it's a really nice downloadable checklist if folks wanna.
I'm putting it in here. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I love all right, so several things that you said. Um, Boy, I'm thinking I've had so many dogs go through this. And and humans I've seen go through this. And it is fascinating. But really appreciating that senior dog for the life they've lived. I love the idea. It's kind of like when someone has dementia or Alzheimer's and we bring back music that's familiar, toys and things that are familiar, games that are familiar to some, it can make a big difference for our dogs. I agree 100% that a lot of times we tend to say, oh, like squeaky wheel gets the oil when your senior dog is sleeping over there and maybe you have a transition dog. Sorry, I sometimes do. I'm a family that we usually do have another dog. So when your senior is resting, you kind of are like, okay, they're okay. But what about a snuffle mat? What about a licky mat?
Great.
What about
Yeah.
something,
A food ball,
towel, a food
breakfast and
bowl?
a food toy that you have to
Yeah,
roll
all
around.
these things. You've got to think about things because it really makes them happy and spunky. Um, and it's hard. So let's talk about this for a minute, okay? Because this is one of those subjects that's brought up. Speaking of another dog, and transition dogs. So a lot of times people want to get another dog. And a lot of times people think, well, my dog has gotten along great with other dogs. It's going to be great. We're just going to throw this puppy in there and let them work it out. Jeez Louise. I just want to say I am 54 and a half. Okay. So that half matters because the more sensitive, I'm telling you, I get everything. It matters in a negative way. My children would probably tell you. Um, I have a hard time when my kiddos come home and it's loud. When everybody's in the house and it's loud and it's rambunctious, and my tolerance level at 54 and a half is quite different than it was in my 30s with little children. Just because I've had 4 kids doesn't mean I want to have that activity in my life right now, right? In a young way. Um, I think we have to remember that when we're thinking and choosing and bringing another family member into our home, is that our senior is a senior, and our senior needs respect of space. They need safety. They don't need to be the one teaching all the boundaries. That's not necessarily okay. That's not necessarily what they're up for or want, willing, or able to do. They need, if you're bringing in a younger dog into a household with a senior dog, your priority is comfort of that senior dog. That's my opinion. And because that senior dog, if they are super stressed, it will manifest medically in some way, potentially. I can't guarantee that. I'm just saying, I've seen a lot of dogs spiral with that stress. I see this with cats for sure. But you're going to have major problems if you just think they're going to work it out and it's going to be great and the senior dog will teach it everything.
I completely agree with you. And not all dogs love puppies to start with,
No,
and
no.
senior dogs may find that activity and energy, and they
Oh,
get
and it's
knocked over, and
awful.
yeah,
And the
so
adolescent
it
stage,
can be
my
really
God,
tricky.
so
It can
hard.
be really tricky.
When that puppy turns 8 months, and we don't want to wait until our senior dog has to snap at them. Please, dear God, let's not do that. And we don't want our younger dog to bully our senior dog. So it's up to us. And now, again, I often, now that I'm getting older, I don't necessarily bring in as many dogs as I once did. However, we do have to think about it. How can we set up our senior for success? Crates, gates, barriers, it's management. It's what we talk about in Family Pause with Children. And the reason I have success stations and grumble and growl zones, if you're not familiar, but go to our resources page, that is because of our dogs. Not it was implemented for children, but I learned it because of our dogs. And so multiple dog households. So please honor that, respect that, know that they need more space. Let's not put them in that situation where they have to manage that and defend
On their
themselves.
own and defend. Yeah. No, it's, I think, really important point, Jen. And that can obviously impact children in the home, adults in the home, and
Yep.
certainly the stress level. And to just add,
Yes.
when we talked about those cognitive signs, is that a really important one is these older dogs stress out really easy. It doesn't take much. It might take you being gone an extra hour during the day,
Oh,
or
yeah.
might take you saying, "Let's all pile in the car and go visit grandma and grandpa," and the dog goes, "I can't handle a car ride
Right.
anymore because it's completely thrown me off my schedule." And then they spiral in their anxiety. It's
Yes.
super, super, common that the senior dogs can't handle that change in
Yeah.
schedule. Structure and predictability is what they thrive on.
And I
Really super point. See, we got a lot to talk
I
about today.
know,
We'll have to do this again.
we should, but I want to mention one last thing because this one really is near and dear to my heart. Listen to your dogs.
Mm.
Like, seriously listen to your dogs and your cats, because your cats are wiser than you'll ever, ever, ever know. They know everything. Don't ever
They
doubt
do. They know what everybody is doing in
they
the house
do.
at all times.
They do, and they know how healthy each other are. Those cats, I have had more cats indicate to me who is ill when it's my children or other if you follow if a cat
Yeah.
lays next to someone, I'm telling you, my kids, I always knew they had a fever because my cat would lay on their pillow.
Mm.
Almost every single time. Serious. I kid you not, Jill. So not all of them are gifted that way, but when you have a cat that is gifted that way, it's kind of cool. Um, but I just will say, animals pick up on smells, they pick up on disease, they know these things. So if you notice a change in your animals in the household, please don't just consider behavior. Don't think they're just doing this because of, they're being whatever they're being. Please get them checked. If you've got seniors and you have a change in behavior with anybody, you have inner animal conflicts, or you have bullying or anything, that is to me something that must be ruled out medically,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
cancer and things that show up
Heart
when they're
disease,
really hard to,
cancer,
all this
arthritis.
stuff,
Yeah.
diabetes, all these things that show up that we can't see, it, please get them checked. Even if their joints are stiff and they're moving differently, that other dog might say, "Ooh, now's my chance." I mean,
Oh,
please,
yeah, that
please,
happens.
yes, yes, please. Please don't look
Yes.
at it just as behavioral. Please talk to your vet and take notes and be clear in what you're observing and when it changed, because that is often a significant thing. And seriously, your animals will appreciate that in you. Um, so be mindful. I feel that so passionately because I can't tell you how many times, Jill, my animals have told me what's wrong.
If we
Before,
listen.
yes,
Sometimes I feel like we're just not listening. We don't see it. We
that's
don't
absolutely
we're too
right.
busy or we don't know what the signs
Yeah.
look like,
All of
but
a sudden, one
that's
cat
absolutely
snuggles
true.
with another that never did before. All of a sudden, the dog goes after someone, or a cat, or the other dog flips, rolls. It's amazing. And if we just can't look at it as it's just what it is in front of us sometimes. So we've got to give that benefit of the doubt and get it checked out. Give the benefit of the doubt and get it checked out. Woo-hoo. How
You're
can
good with those.
I have to have a all right.
Uh,
Well, it's been always
so
a pleasure.
well, I thank everyone for listening today,
Absolutely.
and, just a teaser, we have another, session coming up in April, right?
It's
On Bite Awareness Month, I think.
it's Dog Bite Prevention Month, but because I like to talk about creating dog aware generations, that's going to be our focus, because I want to know what we can do. I want to take action
Okay.
steps. So that's what we're going to focus about, is creating dog aware generations. So if you're interested in that, we would love to see you. Please share our lives. Once it's posted, you can share this. You can share the link from Animal Behavior Consultants of Michigan or Family Paws Parent Education. Either place, we really appreciate it, and we really appreciate those who attended live. And Jill, I always appreciate you. So thank
Aw,
you.
same
Thank
here,
you.
Jen. Good to see you. I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Yes,
Always fun, and I always really enjoy our chats here. We think about what we're gonna talk about. We always kind of expand in
I
directions that
love
is so
it.
much fun to talk about. So good to see you again.
Absolutely. You too. All right, everybody. Stay safe and healthy.